Dickon.
Where's John?
I don't know.
You must warn him. Tell him soldiers are coming. They're looking for anyone that went to London with Wat Tyler. Tell him to hide.
They've already been. They took him this afternoon.
But he'll be all right. King Richard himself let us go free, and John did nothing bad in London.
I haven't been told. John said he didn't want to talk about it. Not straight away.
You should be told what happened. What John and I did. You remember that day the sergeant came to the village? John was in the woods, wasn't he, getting into trouble?
Hey, you! Come here!
We'll ride round the back of the forest and cut him off.
John, what are you doing?
Quiet, woman!
Come on, this way. He's gone into the woods.
Well, what's happened? You should be working at the Abbey. Well?
Oh, it's not important. But listen, I just heard. The tax collectors are coming. Thomas Baker was right.
Thomas Baker's nothing but an old bag of wind. The tax collectors have been once already. They let us off. Where did you hear all this? At the Abbey?
No. Yes, at the Abbey. Oh.
You didn't go to the Abbey fields then, did you?
Well, they can do their own work for a change.
We have to work their fields. We've no choice.
And what do we get for it? I work the Abbey fields at least 3 days a week. I walk 12 miles to get there. They won't even let us stop to eat breakfast. What do I bring home for you? Nothing!
Well, the Abbess gives us our land and this.
I just want to work and be paid for it. We work for the Abbess for nothing. We pay her to get married, we pay when someone dies. It's a wonder we don't have to pay to breathe. But if I could pay to be a free man...
You're dreaming. You'll never save enough. And anyway, since the sickness took so many, the Lords want the freemen back on their land.
But...
And they're trying to keep the freemen's wages down.
That's as maybe. But at least they have money for their taxes.
If there is a new tax, what will we give?
We'd have to give them some of our seed. Some tools.
Well then, come the winter.
That's why we're not gonna pay. And there's others who won't. We're not alone.
Here, eat this.
This morning I saw a pigeon. Fat. Like that it was. Oh, another second and...
Hello? Oh, it's only me.
And there I was, thinking it was the Abbess barking.
Joan? John?
Well, you are allowed to get up, you know.
So they didn't catch you then?
I don't know what you mean.
You were running out the Abbey woods.
I was trying to find some wood to fix this wall.
Here, if they catch up with you, they'll like it.
Oh, this pigeon. Another second, we'd have had him for supper.
Oh, you don't learn, do you? If they catch you hunting, they'll as like Chop up that and that. And then how much use would you be? Look, I hate it as much as you do. The church owns us, and that's that. They make the laws, not us.
Steady that.
Thomas Baker was right then about the new tax.
And everyone over 15 will have to pay again.
Not me. Remember when they came to count everyone a few years back and took the names for the new tax? Well, I kept it out of sight, so I'm not on the list. Thomas Baker was also talking about that preacher, John Ball.
John Ball's nothing but a bottle-bellied chamber pot.
Hold that while I belt it.
Well, according to them, he said, here, that's my finger. He said, good people, all is not well in England, nor will it be until all property is shared, and lords and peasants are equal. They dress in velvets and rich furs, while we have clothes made out of pearl cloth. They drink wine and have white bread. All we have is black bread and drink water.
They live in fine houses, while we have the pain and labour of the fields, and we're treated like slaves.
We must get rid of those who serve the king so badly.
Like Chancellor Sudbury, who thought up this stinking tax.
Yes!
You chore-bacon Dickon Trippet. As if my husband isn't hot-headed enough already. Talk like that will end badly. Do you hear?
No, it's all right. You go on to the next
Tax
one.
collectors.
I'll go in here. Shouldn't take
I'm not on the list.
Well, then hide yourself.
Ooh, what's that smell?
It's either us or our food. Do you like some?
John Walk
Yes.
and Joan. Sir Thomas Bampton orders all villagers to meet with him at Brentwood.
Oh, that's nice. What are we celebrating? His birthday?
Taxes. That's what we're celebrating.
Well, last time he told us we didn't have to pay. He let us off.
Well, you can tell that one to Sir Thomas when you see him.
What's it for, anyway, this new tax?
To pay for the French wars, and it's not a new tax. The last one wasn't properly collected, that's all. People cheated.
Is that why the king had to sell some of his jewels?
You carry on like that, I might have to knock some respect into you. Now then. Anyone else here? They've all got to be counted.
No.
Children?
Dead.
Right then. So, there's no one else here, eh?
No.
Sure?
Yes.
Brentwood. Tomorrow. It was you, wasn't it? I saw you when I was looking for someone to point the way to Fobbin. You were in the forest, stealing wood. It was only firewood, were it? Oh, no, it wasn't. It was housewood, without permission. Well, be sure the Abbey steward will be told. Who are you?
A friend of his.
Here! Before you fillet him by mistake.
No.
Now, I told you, we're not paying.
You may just live long enough to regret that.
Now get out. I think the rest of the villagers want to talk with you.
You heard him. Get out.
I won't forget your face a second time. Nor yours.
We must talk with Thomas Baker. We should take our complaints to the king. He's young, he'll listen.
John! Here. They're for you. You may need them. If you end up walking to London.
Le chevalier fu bio et quinte, et par sa valeur fu à coin du duc qui Bourgogne ténoir, et sauve à
There are
loi...
hundreds of them. They're carrying sticks and old axes.
I'm sure they'll listen to your proclamation, sir, and go away peacefully. Shall I go on reading, sir? Et sauve à loi et Benoit,
Sire, the peasants have...
Oh, yes! His Majesty King Richard bids you leave London and go home. If you do, he will pardon all crimes committed up to this hour. Bring the king to talk to us. We want to see the king. We want to see the king.
They listen to none of my proclamations. Grow more violent by the hour. Well, gentlemen, your advice? Well, my Lord Chancellor?
Sire, I was lucky to escape with my life when they attacked my palace at Lambeth. They came swarming into the house. They broke my belongings. They set fire to my papers and records.
They burnt all the papers in the law court too, sire.
They also say I'm to blame for the new tax law, and they're threatening to behead me.
Yes, the head of my treasurer is also very much in demand. Is it not, Hales?
Sire.
Well, gentlemen, your advice.
Oh, if only your uncle, my Lord Gaunt, were here.
I should hope, sir, that the King of England, his treasurer, his Lord Mayor, and the Archbishop of Canterbury might together be more than a match for a rabble of peasants come stinging from the fields of Essex and Kent. Well?
Sire, the peasants have no armor, and nothing but a few sticks and rusty swords and axes between them. It's hot, and they're drinking too much. By tonight, half will be drunk and lying in the streets like slaughtered pigs. With 200 good men, we could kill them while they're sleeping.
They are not all guilty. I will not have innocent people slaughtered.
Someone, a minister, should talk to them, listen to their complaints,
Yes,
and then...
promise them something will be done. Promise them anything as long as they agree to leave.
And who'll do the talking? Because they'll have your heads dancing on poles as soon as you set foot outside.
I will go.
No, stop
They are my people. They have come to see me. And I will talk with them.
Then let it be in the fields at Mile End. Get them out of the city.
Good. Have it announced in the streets.
But sire...
I will ride with you.
Sire, we...
Both of you shall stay here. Tomorrow when we ride out, you can go down to the gate by the river and escape that.
Oh, thank you, sire.
Tomorrow, then. Mile End. May God help us.
But John and I didn't go to Mile End. Wat Tyler, our leader, told some of us to guard the tower. Well, the next we heard, we were to go in and look for Sudbury and Ailes. And the guards just let us. We couldn't find anyone. Then Wat Tyler came back.
I've had a word with my little friend, the king. He's agreed to our demands and given us leave to deal with traitors.
We're going home, then?
Some have gone home already, happy with their little bits of paper. But I'm not finished yet. In a few days, there will be no laws in England, except those that come from me. Did you find Sudbury and Hales?
We looked everywhere, even in the king's chambers.
My sons, you have come. I am the archbishop that you seek, but I am no traitor.
Take them to Tower Hill.
So we took them to Tower Hill. We had to. We had no choice. It was strange. Sudbury didn't struggle. He just knelt down, calm, like in church. 8 times that axe went into Sudbury's neck and head before he died. They put their heads on poles and put them up on London Bridge as a warning. Then the king agreed to meet us again at Smithfield.
In the fortnight to come, we shall have 40,000 more commons here. And we shall all be good friends.
Why do you not return to your own villages?
My lady, we shall not leave until we have what we come for. And the lords of England will bitterly regret it if the wishes of these people are not granted.
And what are these wishes?
Some you've heard already.
freedom for all men, the right to earn a wage, to rent land, to hunt and to fish. No lords over us, save yourself.
The people shall have everything I can grant them, by the lord of the land.
Give me water. That is no answer. And by God, you know it. You're not fit to be within a mile of your king.
He's nothing but a common thief from Kent.
Take that. Your captain's dead. Revenge him. Revenge your captain.
Our captain's dead!
No, sire, you'll be killed.
Sirs! Will you kill your king? I shall be your chief and your captain, and you shall have from me all that you seek.
Tyler was dead. Some of us weren't sorry. So we did as the king asked and set off back to our villages. None of us were harmed. You see, King Richard had pardoned us for what we had done. And we've got charters to say that we're free. So John's bound to be all right.
You will ride out to every village. You will take back these charters, which were not freely given. You will say this to them. Slaves you are, and slaves you will remain. You shall stay in bondage. Not that of old, but one infinitely worse and vile beyond comparison.
I must go.
Will John be back soon?
Yes, yes, but I must go and hide.
John? Where's John?
Oh, he's ready for you now. One of the soldiers will show you.
Thank you.
Right, come in. We're to confiscate anything useful. That stool over there. Right, and the other one. Oh, yes. And the cooking pot.
Dickon said you'd come back, but I never believed him. I never believed him.
Conquest.
When you think of the Middle Ages, what comes to mind first? Castles full of knights? The great cathedrals and churches? Half-timbered houses, perhaps? We still use the churches and cathedrals today, and old houses make modern homes. But we don't use castles anymore, at least not in the way they were originally used. Huge buildings like this took years to build, and they cost the earth, even then. Why did the people of the Middle Ages build them?
The Normans built the first proper castles after the invasion of 1066. They needed bases from where they could patrol the countryside and strongholds to protect themselves from Saxon attack. These strongholds were also their homes. The castles had to be built in a hurry, so they were made of timber and placed on top of an earth mound called a motte, with a courtyard below known as a bailey.
2 years after the Battle of Hastings, William the Conqueror built a motte and bailey castle here at Warwick. That's all that remains of that early castle, the motte.
The Bayeux tapestry shows us the big disadvantage of those early castles. Attackers could easily set fire to the wooden palisades and buildings.
So the castle builders began to use stone instead. The first thing was to build a stone wall around the bailey in place of the wooden palisades, and then to build another stone wall on top of the motte. This was called a shell keep. But the earth on top of the motte often couldn't take the weight of a strong tower. So they built a keep in the bailey instead. And for added safety, the entrance to this was at first floor level up a flight of steps. It wasn't very comfortable living in the keep. So eventually the lords moved out into proper houses in the bailey. This meant that they weren't so well protected, so the walls had to be strengthened even more. Of course, the weakest part of any castle was the entrance. You needed a really strong gatehouse and even an outer gate or barbican. Edward I added an extra ring of walls around his castles, always lower in height than the inner walls. Round the whole thing, there was often a moat. Of course, many castles couldn't have a water-filled moat because they were too high up.
Like at Warwick, where the River Avon was too far below the castle to fill the moat. So another solution had to be found.
This dry moat, or rather this ditch, isn't nearly as deep as it used to be. But then it must have been a major obstacle for any would-be attacker. And rightly so, because when it came to warfare, the man who dug this ditch and redesigned much of Warwick Castle was a real professional.
The 11th Earl of Warwick, Thomas Beauchamp, was a famous knight. He commanded part of the army at the battles of Crecy in 1346 and Poitiers 10 years later, two of the greatest English victories in the 100 Years' War.
Just look at Thomas Beauchamp's handiwork. Imagine trying to capture that lot. Thomas had obviously picked up a lot of ideas about castle defence when he was fighting in France. Strong castles had high walls. You'd need a very long ladder to climb this wall, and it wouldn't do you much good either, because
along the top of the wall ran the wall walk. This enabled defenders, and often there weren't very many of them, to quickly dash to any trouble spot. Wooden shutters across these gaps, known as embrasures, protected you from enemy fire.
if you think the walls are daunting, look at this tower. If the enemy captured your curtain wall, you could still shoot them from up here or from any of the other towers around. From this loophole, you could shoot sideways and downwards and so protect the foot of the castle wall. Ah! Now let's take a look at this tower. It's even more elaborate. It's got an extra bit on the top, which was the guard room. It's a bit dangerous up here because of these gaps in the floor. They're called machicolations, and you use them for dropping stones or for pouring nasty liquids like boiling pitch or quicklime onto the attackers beneath. Now let's imagine that we're attacking the castle. The way in is protected by a gatehouse with a barbican in front of it providing an extra layer of defence. If we brave the arrows, we're confronted by a drawbridge and a portcullis. If we manage to fight our way through those, we then enter this area, affectionately known as the killing ground. Under fire from every side and even from above.
This is proving a real headache. And still, there's another gate, another portcullis to get through before I'm in the castle. Not doing very well at capturing this castle. What else can we do? Well, we could use this battering ram to hammer away at the base of the walls. Or we could hurl large boulders at them using this mangonel or catapult. The trouble is, it's worked by a series of twisted ropes, and these can be affected by the damp. It's not that accurate. Better still, let's use this trebuchet. It's much more powerful. And we'll use it to hurl the bodies of dead animals over the top of the battlements. On landing, the bodies will burst apart and splatter the inside of the castle, causing disease to spread. There's nothing new about germ warfare. The best way of getting in is to dig a tunnel under the walls, fill it with brushwood, and set fire to it. The fire will burn away the roof supports. The roof will cave in, and down will come the castle wall above. Luckily for us, there's no water-filled moat round Warwick Castle, so we won't have to drain it before we start digging. Mind you, they've been clever with their building. Look at this tower. It's round. If you want to make a building collapse by tunnelling underneath it or by hurling boulders at it with a trebuchet, the best place to start is at the corner. There isn't one. As I said at the beginning, a castle wasn't only a fortress, but a home. A home for the Lord, for his family, and for the people that work there. There might have been hundreds of them. Servants, craftsmen, a priest, a cook, an armourer, a blacksmith. And, of course, a small garrison of knights and archers. And some of these people would have had their families living in the castle as well. Only the most important people had beds, like the constable. This was probably his bedroom. When Earl Thomas went away to visit another castle, he took most of his staff with him. The constable was left behind to look after things while his master was away. Terrific. Well, this was the constable's chamber, and in his lord's absence, it was the constable who held the courts and made sure that the day-to-day running of the castle estates ran smoothly. That was very important, because a nobleman's wealth depended largely on the hard work of the peasants on the castle farms. Some of the jobs were ploughing, sowing, harvesting, reaping, and shearing sheep. This was the constable's toilet. It's called the garde-robe because people used to hang their robes and clothes up in here, the idea being that the smell will keep the moths away. That's how we get our modern word, wardrobe. Below this seat, if you sent anything down there, it ended up in the castle ditch. And sometimes an enemy would get one of their poor men to wriggle up the toilet shaft, enter the castle that way, then he'd go downstairs, open the gates, because nobody would touch him, and let in his friends. Some very famous castles were captured by somebody climbing up the toilet. From one smelly confined place to another, the prison.